Welcome back. Today I'm going to try to solve some puzzles on Lichess, but first, do you know how some YouTubers will have a thumbnail or a title of their video saying, I'm taking a break from YouTube or I'm quitting this channel? Most of the time, as we know from watching, those are just clickbaity things to get more attention and get you in there. And once you get in there, you find out they're not really taking a break. They're just maybe slowing down or focusing on something else for a little while, but they're still going to have content. Well, I'm not taking a break, but what I am going to do is try to space these videos out instead of trying to make one every day, maybe every other day or 3 a week, something like that. Because what I found out is that I'm using this in place of actually studying chess, and I think that's hurting my development. For example, I paid for the Chessly courses or the Gotham chess courses, and which were then migrated to Chessly. But I can't do those on video because that's private. I mean, it's copyrighted content, and I know he doesn't want me disseminating that for free. So if I'm going to study that, I have to do it when I'm not recording a video. And because I only have so many hours in the day and plenty of other responsibilities, I'm going to try to space these videos out a little bit more and use the days in between to actually study or practice chess and really seriously analyze my games off video. And hopefully, my plan is that will make what videos that I do make more interesting or more useful to you guys. But anyway, just wanted to let you know that right now I'm going to switch over to this other screen and I'm going to try to solve some puzzles on Lichess. So let's go. Just going to click puzzles over here at the upper left. See if we get some puzzles. Let me scroll up. Yeah, my rating on Lichess is 2019 currently. I'm going to try to do better than that. Do I have any checks in this position? I do not have any checks possible in this position. Okay, I do have a couple of captures possible. For example, I could capture the pawn on f4. The opponent could capture back with either the bishop or the pawn or the knight. Well, that's not a knight. The knight over here. 3 different ways to capture back that pawn. And that's the only possible capture that I have in this position. So I wonder if there's a threat. It looks like I could put my bishop on g2, threatening both their rook and their knight. And I don't know what they would do in that situation. I'm looking around. I don't know what they would do. If they tried to do something like this with their knight, I would just take it, and then they might move their rook, and I would have gained a knight for a pawn. But if they move their rook, then I would just win the knight for free. So that's what I'm going to try. Oh, and that is what they did. Ah. Oh, and that was the whole puzzle. I got 20 points for that. All right, let's go to the next puzzle by clicking the thumbs up button, which you can see now because I've recropped this, moved things around on the screen a little bit. Okay, they are attacking my rook, and they have just taken something. Do I have any checks in this position? I do have a check. I could capture... No, that's not a check. Wow. I don't have any checks in this position, to be clear. I do have some captures in this position, and I could capture that bishop with my queen, which I do not think is a good idea because they could capture back. And if I took back with my knight, they would take back with their rook, and I would have gotten a queen and a bishop for a queen and a knight, and that's an even trade. Any other captures? I can capture this pawn. I can capture this bishop. Capturing the pawn appears to be free. Capturing the bishop does not appear to be free. I could capture this bishop with my knight, which maybe seems obvious. If I capture the pawn, that gets my rook out of danger. And it keeps the bishop pinned to their queen. What do they do? What do they do if I capture the bishop? I think they just come forward with their queen at that point, don't they? And then I could move my rook over. And then they wouldn't take it because that space would be guarded by my bishop. So if they move the queen out of the way, then I would take their rook. So I think that's what I'm going to do. That was it. And they did take with their queen. So now doesn't it make sense to move the rook over? Oh. That was it. Okay. Oh, and I got 21 points for that one. Nice. Let's move on to the next one. Oh, I forgot to check what the puzzles were rated, but that's one reason to reshape your browser just a little bit. So instead of the puzzle information being at the upper left, which is really easy to see because our eyes are naturally, at least in my country, we read from left to right, top to bottom. So your eyes are always drawn to the top left of any screen. At least it seems to be natural for me. And so I'm always distracted by those things. And even when they're in the upper right, like on chess.com, I'm always distracted by those things. But I've recropped my screen, so as you can see, all that information is down here at the bottom. So it's much easier to not be distracted by it. Although just me talking about it just now indicates that I was a little bit distracted by it. Is this a situation where the queen is trapped? It almost looks like that. But if I capture this pawn on b4 with my rook, which is protected by my pawn, their queen isn't quite trapped because it could step to the left just a little bit to a5. But then I could move my bishop to d2 to threaten it over there. But then it could take this pawn, and that would be it. I don't think it's about trapping the queen. Because again, it just moves over, right? Yeah, I mean, that looks tempting. Oh, I get a pawn out of it. And I don't think, as long as I leave my bishop here, they're not going to take that pawn. So if I take here, they move over, then what do I have? I could always take my knight back there, but then the queen just steps back a couple of spaces, and it'll be fine. I don't have any checks in this position, at least not with, well, I certainly don't have any checks with their pawn. I don't have any checks with this knight. I don't see that any of my other pieces can check at this time. I could bring my queen over here. I think then they would take this pawn. Then I could take that pawn. No, they wouldn't because my bishop's right there. Okay, so that's a threat. Because it doesn't look like I have any good captures or checks. What about this threat? Putting my queen here on b3. I'm threatening to take that pawn. Or should I just take that pawn first? I'm going to take their pawn with my rook because that seems like the most forcing option. Also, I don't want to spend too long on this puzzle right now. As I said, I'm going to do my studying in between the videos, on the days in between when I make videos. And then in the videos, I'm just going to try to keep going, like just pushing through. I have no idea what to do here. I could probably figure it out if I spend another 5 minutes on it. But then I get tired of spending editing. I spend as much time editing a video as I do making it, if not more. So if I just push forward, then I have less things to edit out of the video. Yeah, that was right. Okay. I guess I could keep them from... Again, they're not going to take the pawn. What should I do here? Should I move my rook over? Because then they'll just go back, right? No, they won't, because then I'll get that rook. Oh. Well, that was simple enough. Okay. I should have just gone with my first instinct on that one. All right. Well, I'm doing pretty well so far. Thumbs up. Okay, they've just taken something. What do I have? I do have a check in this position, but they have two ways of capturing back. If I check by capturing on e6, they wouldn't take back with the queen, I think, because my knight is guarding that square. If they took back with the pawn, then I would have just lost a rook for a bishop, I think. I do like that the bishop is pinned. I wonder if that has something to do with this. Can I put pressure on the pinned piece? Something like pointed my queen at it there. But then what if they castled? If they castled, I could just take this now. Maybe that's what I should do. Put pressure on the pinned piece. What would they do if I moved my queen here? Castling might be one option. Castling the other way might be another option. Then the bishop wouldn't be pinned anymore, and then I would take it. But what if they didn't castle? What else could they do? After I played queen to g, whatever it is, g4. I suppose they could push their d-pawn forward because they have their bishop and their queen pointed right there at f2. And then I would have to figure something out, and quick. Oh, I don't know. Or I could just take the bishop now. If they took back, then I would have a check over here. Let's try that. That was it. Well, so now my question is it the check over here, or is it putting pressure on the pinned piece? Because I can then just win that piece. What do they do if I check? If I check, they're going to move this pawn forward, right? And then I'll win that bishop. Nice. I didn't see that. I mean, I did see the bishop because I talked about the f2 square being in danger if they moved their pawn forward, but I didn't see that the bishop was hanging until this check possibility came up just now. So I definitely need to work on that. But I did see it. I just didn't see it 3 moves in advance. I saw it 2 moves in advance. Okay. Or 1 move in advance, whatever the case may be, however you're counting that. I do have some checks in this position. I have a check here with my knight on e6, but it looks like that loses to the bishop, so I don't like that very much. I have a check here with the rook. But that looks like it also loses to the bishop. So let me think about this. Those are my only two checks, I believe. Yeah, those are my only two checks in this position. I do have some captures available as well. For example, taking the knight. Is there any benefit to taking the knight? If I capture the knight on e1, they'll capture back with their rook, and then I do not have a fork with my knight at that point. But I think, okay, right now it's worth noting that their king cannot move because my bishop is guarding f3. My king is guarding g3. Also my knight is guarding f3. My rook is protecting e3. That pawn, the f pawn, is protecting both e4 and g4. The g pawn is protecting the f5 square. And my rook is protecting the e5 square. So their king is completely immobile. So that's definitely worth noting. So if I could check here, I would win. That leads me to go back to this knight move. Because if I check with the knight, all of those other spaces are still cut off, as I just said, because the knight was a double protection on this f-pawn. It's currently also guarded by the bishop. So the knight is not helping to protect any of those squares, so I can give it up. So that forces the opponent to capture with their bishop. It's their only legal move. And then I think I would have mate here. The reason I can't check there now is because the bishop's also guarding that square, but this forces the bishop away from protecting that square. I figured it out. Oh, give me a break. I get a little excited when I figure those out. That's 5 in a row. Okay. Oh, and my rating is now over 2100 on Lichess, which I find Lichess puzzles to be just a tiny bit more difficult than the chess.com puzzles. Sorry, I had to check the clock because kids in school and so forth. I do have a couple of checks in this position. One is this bishop coming down here to f7, but that looks like it loses a bishop. But I would have a follow-up in that case. And I also have rook to h8. But that just looks like it loses a rook, doesn't it? I mean, I would have a follow-up check with my queen to h5, but then the king goes back. And then, and then I would have that. But then the king goes back. Wonder if I should go to h5 first. Wait, their queen's down here. What do they play if I go queen to h5, threatening checkmate? They could check me here. That's what I think they would do. It wouldn't be threatening my rook because my queen would be up there protecting my rook. But it would put me in check and I would have to get out of check. And then could they check me again? They couldn't, I don't think. And I would still be threatening mate. So if they didn't do that pointless check, what would they do? They could start running. But if they ran there, I would have mate here. I think it has to be queen to h5. We're about to find out. It was not. Okay. Then it was at the rook down here. It was. So then it was this, and then that. Because then the king just goes back, right? That's why we dismissed this in the first place. There's more. Oh. Now the king can't move because the bishop's there. And the pawn is gone. All right. What was the problem with what I did? I just lost 20 points for that. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. And it was the rook sacrifice. But let's just see if queen to h5 was as bad as it made it out. Okay, that was my... Okay, rook to h8 forces mate in 4, and queen to h5 draws. So what do they do there? It says they would check here like I thought, but that's pointless. We already determined, right? I'm just going to go up there. It says I wouldn't. It says I would go down, but what happens if I go up there? Oh, then they take my rook? Well, then I take their queen. Oh, but they're ahead now. Oh, because they had all these pieces that are underutilized. Oh, okay. I thought that was pointless, but apparently it's not. Apparently they'd be willing to sacrifice their queen for my rook, because even though these other pieces are trapped and undeveloped, there's still more than what I have left. Apparently, because 2 rooks are about equal to a queen, are they not? But then they have a bunch of extra pawns. So that was the tale there. Checking the clock again. All right. But we learned something. The reason I didn't see that checkmate is because I didn't realize that pawn wouldn't be there anymore. So when the king went back, it would have been mate. Okay. I understand. And that's the important part. When I fail a puzzle, I want to be able to understand why I failed. That's why I do like the ones that end in checkmate, because those are really easy to see. That one way you can get checkmate or force checkmate, and the other way you can't. It's the middle game ones that I don't always understand, even after looking at the analysis board, because I'll follow one line, I'll follow the other line, and I just don't see why one's worse than the other. But this one I did. Okay. I do have some checks in this position. I have queen to h8 check. It looks like they can block one of 2 ways, and I would not have a follow-up check at that point. Not a good follow-up check. So I don't think it's that. I have a check just by capturing the rook, but the king comes in, and I would have a follow-up here with the knight. But then I think the king would just go back to f8, and I wouldn't have a follow-up check. So I don't think it's the queen sacrifice. I don't think it's queen to h8 for those reasons. I can capture this pawn because capture is the next thing that I'm going to look for. Already covered that one because it was a check. Okay, I can capture this pawn on e3, which is quite advanced. But I'm not too worried right now about it advancing because I have 2 pieces guarding the square in front of it. But it is something that I can do right now. Do I have any other captures? I don't see any. And I know that puzzle solutions are almost never about just capturing a pawn. If I captured that, I suppose they could then threaten my queen with the knight, but I could just go back, right? But there's got to be more to this because they're up material, and the puzzle is not going to end with them up material. Right now they have a rook for a bishop. Is it moving my knight here to threaten capturing the pawn as well as the rook? No, because then they would just take with their knight, right? And then I couldn't capture with my pawn because my king is in the path of this rook. That pawn would be pinned then once the knight's out of the way. I really have no idea. Nothing looks good to me. Everything that I can think of to do looks refutable. The best thing I can think of is taking this pawn because they can't immediately capture anything back. If I do that, they can only threaten to capture back at most, which I can just return to where I was or go somewhere else or take it for that matter. I don't think I would take it because they would capture back with their queen and that would be check, and then it gets worse from there. Also, then my bishop would no longer be guarding this pawn. So if I take this pawn and they threaten with their knight, I think I would just going to move my queen at that point. I don't know where. Maybe here, maybe back to where it was. But I don't see anything else. Do you? But I have a feeling I'm going to fail this puzzle. Yep. All right. Was it that? No. Was it that? No. Okay, so none of the ideas that I thought of were any good. Was it this? No. All right. Well, view the solution. It was putting the knight on h5. Is that it? It says puzzle complete. You can see that, right? It says that's the end of the puzzle. I mean, I get that the rook can't move because it's pinned. So I'm putting pressure on the pinned piece. I guess I should have considered that as an option. But then what would they do? It says they would play knight to f5. And then I would check down here. And then they would just block, right? And now I would take it. Oh, because now I can fork their... Okay. And then I end up a piece ahead. Okay. Well, there's no way to just restart the puzzle without clicking on that and losing our progress, so let's just go on to the next puzzle. They've left this bishop hanging, it appears. I don't know why I didn't capture it on my last turn, but I didn't. Did I just take it? I shouldn't take there because then their queen's going to be here and then I won't be able to take the bishop. Should I take there? Oh, that's check. I should check for checks first. Okay, knight captures f3 check. They, I assumed they would take back with their pawn, and then I would move my bishop here, threatening their rook, and then take this bishop. Nope. Oh, it was that. And they didn't take with their queen. They didn't take with their queen because my knight is here. So now I take this bishop. Apparently so. I don't understand why the order was so important. All right. Can we back up to why it was so bad to take that with the knight? That gives white an advantage, it says. Because now they would take back. And then, yeah, then I said I would go here, and I would. Oh, but then they wouldn't move their rook. They would move their bishop. But then I would take the rook, right? Why wouldn't? It says I would not. But I have to know why. I would move my king over. For unknown reasons. No, now it's changed its mind. Now I would move this pawn for unknown reasons. Even though they could capture back. Yep, that one's past me. How much time? I got enough time for another puzzle or two. As you can see, I started off really well, but then I ran into some problems, and now I'm back down in the mid-2000s instead of the 2100s. Okay, their queen moved over. There. Do I have any checks? No, I do not with the knight. I do not have checks with the queen or the rook. So I have no checks in this position. Do I have any captures? No. Oh, there's one. I can capture that bishop with my rook on f4. That's the only capture in this position. Oh, wow. So do I have any threats? Wait, is their queen trapped? Is this one of those where the queen is trapped and I can just go here? Because those spots are guarded by the knight. That spot's guarded by my queen. That spot's guarded by my knight. Queen. Well, it could just go back to where it was. Oh, but then my rook would get it, because the rook would be cutting off that entire file. The pawn would be guarding the rook. Oh, but no, then it could go back in the corner. What? But then I could come up here with my king. And then the queen would be truly trapped. Oh, let's try it. Nope, that wasn't it. All right, then I have no idea. What was the solution? No, trapping the queen over there. And the puzzle says it's complete. Okay. Well, I'm going to thumbs that down because I don't think that puzzle was complete. I do have a check. That's not a check. I have a check with my bishop capturing on f2. Think they can just take back or move out of the way. If they take back, I would have a follow-up check with my knight, but they would just move out of the way. I like the bishop to h6. It's a good threat because it's backed up by my queen. If they take it, I would capture back with my queen, and I would have a queen very close, but unable to do anything. I have no idea. And I'm pretty sure I've been in a very similar situation in an actual game and had no idea what to do. But in that case, couldn't they could just move the bishop out of the way. I don't know. But yeah, this is one of the reasons, like I said, that I need to actually put some days between these videos and actually study and work on things rather than just making the videos every single day and then not having time left over to actually study chess. It's one of those two moves, right? Nothing else makes sense at this point. The way puzzles usually go, it usually starts with a sacrifice, so I'm going to try that. All right, so you just need to know how puzzles usually go. I do have a check. Also here, but that one is unprotected and would be attacked, so shouldn't it be that check? It was that check. Now what? Oh, now the queen is trapped. And that was the end of the puzzle. Okay, well, I have time for one more. And I'll try to remember to put the links to these. And the last couple times I did Lichess, I forgot to copy the links to all these puzzles down here. But because they're not stored in an archive someplace. On chess.com, I can go to my puzzle stats page and the last 30 or 50 puzzles or whatever are listed there with the links. But on Lichess, they're only listed right there. And then once I leave the page, they're gone. As far as I know. I don't know how to get back to them. Okay. I do not have any checks in this position. Oh, I do have a check in this position. Is that any good? It is good because it allows my pawn to pass. I like it. I'm going to do it. How about that? Whoop, they checked me. Why would you do that? I should go there, right? Because if I go to h2, they move this rook over here right behind my pawn, and then I can't protect it. But if I go here, I've protected my pawn, and that was the end of the puzzle. All right. Well, I solved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 11, if my math is right, but I will double check before I put it on the thumbnail and the title. Thank you for watching, and thank you for understanding if I start spacing the videos out every other day or 3 per week, something like that. And I'll try to make sure that they're still the high quality that you're used to. And we'll see you next time.